Welcome to an emergency episode of the Cohn Zone. We're your host, Cohn and Lowell Cohn. We weren't planning on talking today. The 49ers were supposed to be practicing today. At 3 o'clock, I was supposed to be doing interviews, but they canceled practice, so we rescheduled our show, and we're going to tell you what we think. Dad, how you doing? You're looking good.
I'm feeling good, and I'm very eager to talk about today's topics.
Absolutely. So should we tell the people what we know, what we were informed?
Well, tell them what happened.
Okay, so news breaks this morning that two players suffered serious injuries on Monday. Tavarius Moore, Achilles, Justin School, ACL. News breaks this morning. I go live on YouTube to give my thoughts for about 20 minutes. Around 10 o'clock, I'm getting ready to leave the apartment and drive down to Santa Clara for the day to watch practice. I get a call from a PR person saying, "Don't drive down. Practice is canceled." I say, "Oh, yeah, it's a smart idea. I would do the same thing given what just happened yesterday." And then he says, actually, they were planning on doing this before those injuries happened. I said, "Oh, well, that's good timing in that case." I said, "Yeah, they're going to be doing team building exercises today." So that's what I know.
I'd like to jump in a minute. Although later in the day, they sent out an advisory to the 49ers saying that there was a schedule change.
And that Kyle Shanahan will talk tomorrow, not today.
Yeah, there was a scheduled, hold on. Due to a schedule change, there'll be no practice or media availability today. So it wasn't planned all along.
Right, it was a
schedule change today. So you're getting mixed messages.
And they told us 2 hours before practice started after this news broke.
Yeah. So the idea that it was scheduled seems, I'm skeptical of that. Now, before we get into the injuries and the really serious issues, the Flack who called you said they were going to do team building exercises. Okay, Iggy, what the hell is a team building exercise? Here is like charades. You play charades.
Oh, I would think duck, duck, goose.
Duck, duck, goose would be good. Tag.
Yeah.
Tag would be good. I think Juszczyk would be good at tag.
Steal the bacon.
Volleyball.
Did you ever play steal the bacon when you were a kid, Dad?
Never played steal the bacon.
Steal the bacon's a good one.
I'll tell you a game we played. Did you ever play telephone?
Yes, I love telephone.
Right? Yeah. Someone tells you in your ear, and then by the end, it's a whole different word. I think they played telephone.
I think so too, and I think that the work they did playing telephone is much more productive than anything they did on a football field this offseason.
I think so. I think team building exercises are really important because it's not important if you win or lose. It's important if your feelings don't get hurt and if you're friends. That's what really counts in football.
Look, I have no idea what team building is. Let me try to find a non-snarky answer here. Players are getting hurt in practice. Maybe they need a refresher course on how to practice. Seriously.
Yeah.
When Harbaugh was the coach, turn me down a little bit. There's a little bit of a feedback. When Harbaugh was the coach, he would make a big deal about keeping players on their feet. If players fell down, he would just lose his mind. He would just yell and yell and yell, "Stay on your feet, stay on your feet." It was important to play hard, but you couldn't put people's health in jeopardy. And it was a point of emphasis. You're not allowed to fall down during practice. Everyone has to help each other stay up. And they don't really talk about that on this team. That's something I've noticed.
Well, I think the team building exercise is that since Shanahan is breaking down the team,
yes,
he had a team of at least non-breaking down the team. So that maybe he considers that a team building exercise. What I want to say, we've been joking around. This is serious, Iggy.
Yes.
You know what? The draft is very serious, obviously, and fans are invested in the draft. These injuries are just as serious and maybe more serious than the draft. This is astonishing what's going on with the 49ers.
Injuries are a part of football. They're unavoidable in games, but they're totally avoidable in June. And I have a full list of players who have gotten injured in practice since Kyle Shanahan has taken over. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, there's Tavarius Moore. There's Justin School. There's Jeff Wilson Jr., who they say he injured it in the locker room. Okay, another guy who wasn't in a game. It was in the locker room. DJ Reed last year got injured in practice. The Niners waived him. The Seahawks picked him up the next day. Now he's a starting cornerback for them. Jerick McKinnon tore his ACL. Jalen Hurd tore his ACL. Malcolm Smith tore his pec. Quan Alexander tore his bicep. D Ford ruined his back, Tavarius Moore, Achilles, Justin School, ACL, Nick Bosa, ankle, Brandon Ayuk, hamstring, Tom Compton, concussion, all in practices. 12
Okay.
guys.
So, Iggy, what I'm asking you is, why do you think this? And look, let's say I think this happens more to the 49ers than it does to other teams. And it happens year after year after year. Obviously, other teams get people hurt. But I think with the Niners, it's an epidemic. Iggy, why do you think it's happening?
There's a million reasons why. It's their job to figure it out. It's Kyle Shanahan's job to figure it out. He's been on the job for 5 years, and he can't do anything that fixes it. It preceded him. So I don't really have any sympathy for that. That's the other question. Do you have sympathy for their predicament right now? It's not my job. That I'm quality control. I do the best I can. I'm guessing that his practices are too strenuous. He said,
hold on. Sympathy is a good one. I have no sympathy. Here's the deal. I had sympathy last season.
Yes.
You know, it's like a plague came on them. I don't feel that way anymore. I think they bring the plague on themselves.
Yeah.
So go on with what you were saying about how he runs practices.
Well, I mean, Shanahan said himself, we're doing shorter practices because the players aren't in football shape. It was after the first OTA. It was like an hour practice, which was short. And he said, well, yeah, they're not really in football shape. We're going shorter. Well, it seems to me that the duration doesn't really matter. It's the intensity that matters. If you're asking these guys to go out and sprint 100%, compete 100% for 20 minutes, for 45 minutes, for an hour, that's all dangerous if they're not in football shape, as you said. So really what you should be doing is taking down the intensity. They could be on the field for 3 hours if they're just lifting weights and doing drills and talking about scheme. As long as there's no actual competition, stay on the field as long as you want. The competition thing is, you said they're not in football shape. There's only one speed to compete, 100%. You're setting them up for injury.
Right, and now he's lost. In next week, they got minicamp. He's already lost people for minicamp. He should have used this time to get people ready for minicamp.
Right.
Iggy, another thing, I put 100% of the blame on Shanahan.
Yeah.
You said there are many variables. I know people are kvetching, get rid of the training staff. He's in charge of the training staff. I think the training staff is probably damn good. I think he doesn't know. Listen, a coach coaches games and he makes game plans. He also is responsible for the whole picture. The whole picture is also OTAs, mini camp, training camp. He doesn't seem fit to run these things. And the idea that he's getting people seriously hurt in May and June, Iggy, it's unforgivable.
It seems like unprofessional. Unprofessional.
Yeah.
Like he's not cut out for the head coaching job. He's very good at his skill set, drawing up plays, X's and O's. But this is totally different. It's scheduling. How hard should your players practice on June 7th? And he got it wrong. And it's a serious decision that he messed up.
And I want to say something to our viewers, because I know you people are fans and you want to like Shanahan and all that. The buck stops with him. He screwed up. You can make excuses for him, and that's your business. His business was not to get people hurt and out for the season.
What I've noticed, the Kyle Shanahan phenomenon, and honestly, it kind of makes me, it's nauseating. I feel like, I mean, when he does something good, he gets all the credit, as he should. He's the head coach. If Robert Saleh's defense was carrying the team, Kyle Shanahan got credit for that because he hired Robert Saleh, as he should. Anything that's good that happens on the Niners is on his resume. But anything bad that happens is like, well, you can't blame Kyle for that. That really isn't his responsibility. No, you get all the credit for good things, and you take on most of the blame for the bad things because you're the head coach. You hired the training staff. You brought in these players. You hired the general manager. Every single person that's on the 49ers is here because Kyle wanted them here.
I agree. And I know some people have mentioned maybe this is John Lynch's fault. Hell no. It's not John Lynch's fault. He doesn't run the practices. He stands there and watches.
How is he in charge of reducing practice injuries? Right. Also, Kyle hired him. If Kyle wanted a different general manager with more experience, he would have done that.
Yeah. Anyway, I absolve John Lynch of this. I see this is a young man who has certain skills and does not know how to run practices, does not know how to build one day to the next to the next. He can plan a succession of plays. If I do this, then this will be open on the third play.
Right.
If I do this, then I have a better practice on the third day, and I won't lose people for the season. And he doesn't know how to do that. Iggy, this is very serious. And you made a point earlier when we were talking on the phone. If he flops as a head coach, and listen, neither Iggy or I is saying that he will flop as a head coach. I'm not saying he'll succeed either. I have no idea. But if he flops, part of the reason is this. He doesn't know what he's doing.
The main reason.
Yeah.
His guys keep getting hurt, and he has to be culpable there. It's been 5 years, Dad. It can't be bad luck 5 years in a row. He needs to find a solution
he's in charge.
to this.
And, you know, there are other organizations. We won't mention them. But we know about other organizations where if there were players that got hurt in May and June, the owner would go to the coach and say, what the hell are you getting my players hurt for? I didn't pay for them not to be able to play in the regular season because you got them hurt in May and June. I paid for them to play in the 16 or 17 game season now.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for this. And what's more, Jed should be pissed.
Jed should be pissed. I was just going to say that. He should be pissed. There should be a meeting today where Jed has the list of all the players who have gotten hurt in practice since Kyle Shanahan got here. And is like, look, I understand there's players who get hurt in games. You can't avoid that. There's players who get hurt for all kinds of reasons. These are 12 avoidable injuries. Why do they keep happening? Why do we have 2 in one day yesterday?
I don't blame Jed for any of this. Jed needs to hold this kid accountable.
Yeah, because it looks like a kid who has been he looks like a guy who's been over promoted. In this regard, basic task of putting together a schedule is beyond him. He's thinking about X's and O's or something. He said they weren't in football shape, Dad. He said it himself.
And then he didn't know what to do about it.
Trevor Pike says we just need to draft players with little to no injury history, period. Well, that's what they did this year. That's what they did this year. It's not helping. It's not enough.
It's too simple because players get injured. You just don't want them injured in training.
Yeah. Okay. B money. Do these last 2 injuries make Kyle finally rethink how he runs practices? Does anything make him rethink anything?
Well, here's the deal. This is a test of Kyle.
Yeah.
It sure as hell should make him rethink it. If he doesn't rethink it, he's as stubborn and arrogant as I sometimes suspect that he is.
Okay, I have something to bring up. I think a big reason everyone assumes that he knows what he's doing is because Mike Shanahan's his dad. Mike Shanahan won 2 Super Bowls, 3 if you count when he was a coordinator with the 49ers. So people feel like, well, he knows how to run a practice. Kyle could just call him up and ask. And there's something to that. How is Kyle getting this? How can Kyle get this wrong when his dad was a Super Bowl winning coach? Is he using outdated methods? Is he stuck in 97? I don't know.
I honestly can't answer that question. I don't know how Mike ran practices.
Right.
I don't know. So I can't answer that. But all I can say is I see the results, how his son runs practices, and it's not very encouraging.
Wasn't Bill Walsh famous for having light practices?
Yes. He was known for that. And a lot of the teams in the East and in Chicago, Ditka, considered and Parcells in New York, considered the Niners very soft, Chardonnay drinkers. But, Bill didn't have these kinds of injury problems.
One more thing to consider. The Niners, there's 3 forms of competition in practice. 1-on-1, 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s. 1-on-1s is like wide receivers versus corners, pass rushers versus blockers. 7-on-7s is everyone except for the linemen. And 11-on-11 is the full team. That's competing, even though it's not real football with tackling. It's competing. Everyone's running as fast as they can. There's collisions. So the 49ers did 2 of the 3 in OTAs. They did 7-on-7, 11-on-11s. They did not do 1-on-1s. Now, why didn't they do 1-on-1s? I'm assuming it's because it's too strenuous. Too much competition. Something bad could happen. So why was 1-on-1s off limits, but 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s were cool? It seems like if they're not ready to compete, they're not ready to compete. They shouldn't be competing.
Yeah. I don't want to hear from any fans, boy, they have bad luck. It's just too bad. Or they have a bad training staff. I don't want you to deflect the issue. The responsibility is on Shanahan. Iggy, I have something I want to ask you.
Yes.
Okay. We were saying that Jed should be pissed.
Yes.
As he should. Iggy, could you pretend to be Jed and not joking around?
Yeah.
This is not a parody. You're talking to Kyle. What do you say to him?
Kyle, I understand that this injury issue isn't all your fault, but Injuries in practice are avoidable, and you're the one who avoids it. Has to. You have to understand that you can't win games in June and May, but you can definitely lose them, and you've been losing them for 5 years now. We can't get to the season healthy. So I don't want to single you out, but this particular issue here is a Kyle Shanahan issue. What are you going to do to make sure this doesn't happen anymore?
Jed, thanks for calling me in. I'm glad we could talk about this. I respectfully disagree with you, Jed. It's just bad luck. It's just one of those things. It's just bad luck.
That's very discouraging that you're telling me that, because I'm looking for answers from you. If you don't have answers, no one in this organization is going to have answers. And it's not bad luck. It's been going on for 8 years. It precedes you, but it's been consistent through all 5 years of your tenure. You've had half a decade to find some type of something to make it better. And yet 2 players got lost for maybe the season in a practice yesterday. You don't seem to have the answers. Why should I not look for someone else who does?
Well, it's not really my fault, Jed. I could see why you're thinking what you're thinking. It's the training staff.
Who hired the training staff?
Yeah,
Why were these the guys you wanted? Everything everything I've gotten in this organization is what you wanted. The general manager, the training staff. All I do is say yes to you, Kyle. And now you're saying it's not your fault? It's that no, this is your operation. Should I take less off your plate, or is there too much responsibility for you?
No, it's not too much responsibility, but I want to tell you, Jed, you're hurting my feelings.
Okay. That was fun. I like that. That was good. That was good. Are there no details or rumors about how the injuries occurred? Kyle's gonna talk tomorrow and they'll give their story. We got more comments. Let's see what people say. I'm sure they're gonna disagree with us. Wesley says Grant has been super mad since Mostert got hurt again. I'm with you, Grant. If Mostert doesn't start for most of the season, I say fire Kyle. LOL. Silly,
so this guy's putting you down?
I don't think so. I couldn't really tell, but I appreciate the $5, so I'll take that. Hold on. We got a couple more, and then we'll get back to our show. The coach, but there was one before the coach. Oh, Aaron. Thank you. Newt Lab TV says, will you do the math on how much money he wasted by all of these preseason injuries? That would be epic. Lay down the data on Kyle's method. Yeah. How much money did he put down? Did he sink of Jed's? Did he put down the drain because he couldn't get guys to the season? All right, let me get the coach, who is definitely going to disagree with us, and then we'll move on. Hold on. Here's the coach. I hate admitting this, but you're right. Mike was notorious for rough practices in Washington. Players talked about it routinely, and I'm a Kyle guy. I didn't even know that. That's very interesting. How about that?
I love it. Thanks, Coach. Iggy, I have a question for you. With these people that Kyle has out now, how many touchdowns has he lost?
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Now, not all of it's with injuries, but 22 touchdowns the Niners have to find. 10 came from Jeff Wilson. Let me get the other. 6 came from Jerick McKinnon last year. That's 16 from 2 running backs no longer on the team. 4 from Jordan Reed, 2 from Kendrick Bourne. 22 touchdowns. That's nothing to sneeze at. Everyone thinks the Niners are going to be better on offense this year than last year. Who's going to score? Who's going to make up the deficit here, in your opinion?
You're asking me?
I mean, it sounds so simple, but do you know how many touchdowns George Kittle has in his entire career? 14. 4 seasons. He doesn't score much. So it seems like the Niners are going to have to get real creative unless they want to start throwing him passes in the end zone, which they've never felt comfortable doing. They always like him running after the catch. Maybe they want to get Ross Dwelly involved. Maybe they're going to throw a lot to Brandon Ayuk. Maybe they'll use Deebo Samuel as a running back. They don't have a goal line back, Dad. This loss for Jeff Wilson Jr. is the worst. It's more important than the one than the Tavarius Moore Justin School. Jeff Wilson Jr. may not have been a starting running back, but he led the team in touchdowns last year. 10's a lot. I mean, that's a career for George Kittle. That's a lot, and I don't see the Niners having any type of goal line back. It's Deebo. It's Trey Lance.
You know what I'm noticing, Iggy?
What?
We play around a lot on this, and people praise us for our humor. I actually feel kind of angry and worked up today.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why. I'm a very happy person. I'm in a very good mood. But what's going on with them is really ticking me off. Is it ticking you off?
Yeah, because it's beneath them, right? It's like what do you call it? It's like Bush League, right? What is
Yeah.
this? And we're not 49ers fans, but we're very tied up in the history of the franchise. I mean, you've been covering it since 1979. You know Bill Walsh, knew Bill Walsh as well as anyone. I feel like I've grown up around the organization. I mean, it means a lot to us. We don't want to just see it make ridiculous mistakes. That's why I call myself quality control. I'm really trying to help. We're really trying to help. And for these things to happen every year, it's ridiculous. It's beneath them.
Yes, it's beneath them. And
beneath
it's avoidable.
It's avoidable.
So
Yes.
it's not only beneath them, it's incompetent. That's it.
Yeah.
It's incompetent.
Yeah.
And when you think about a head coach, you think about, oh, he's brilliant at calling plays. How about the basics? How about being competent at the basics so you can keep your players whole and at least start the season with all your players?
I wasn't aware that Mike Shanahan had the same reputation in Washington. It seems like this is a Shanahan problem, that they definitely work their players too hard. I mean, they traded for D Ford. Kansas City knew he had injury issues, back issues. They never practiced him. Then they didn't want to extend the contract. The Niners were like, no, we want him. You guys don't know what you're talking about. We'll trade for him, give him an extended contract, but you got to practice. And he got hurt in practice. Unreal.
Iggy, has he practiced at all this offseason?
No, not in front of me. No.
Have you ever laid eyes on him?
Not since he walked off the field last year in practice.
So during practices, you've been to 2 practices. During practice, the 2, he's maybe in the weight room?
I haven't laid eyes on him. I don't know where he is.
Got it.
I have no idea where he is.
So maybe he's playing team building drills.
Yeah, Duck Goose. I think he's in the Duck Goose room. Sugar Shane Mosley says, why haven't the players been held accountable? I mean, not coming into camp into shape, that's more an issue. That's my take. What do you think? The players' culpability.
It's not the players' fault. First of all, they're coming off a COVID season.
Yep.
You have to take that into account.
Yep.
I don't believe that these players are lazy or malingerers. And if it's the players' fault, which I don't think it is, the coach is supposed to be communicating with them.
Yes.
I need you at this level on this day. So either way, it's Kyle's fault.
Yes. Another thing I would talk about with Kyle, if I were Jed York in a meeting right now, I would have to point out to him that OTAs were just a flat out bust. You were talking this year, like, this year's going to be different because this year the Niners have OTAs. They have minicamp. They're going to be so much more prepared for the season. But actually, given what happened, I think I'd argue that doing nothing would have been preferable to what they accomplished in OTAs this year.
I love it. I think that's a really brilliant insight. Doing nothing would have been better because they wouldn't have gotten hurt.
I mean, there are ways that OTAs and minicamp could have been beneficial. Like if they had taken the competition out of it and just focused on strength and conditioning, learning the playbook, and drills like throwing mechanics and all the little mechanics of playing your position without competing, everyone would have been healthy. Everyone would have been in great shape and ready for training camp. But that's not what they decided to do. They wanted to push it. And when you push it, you give players an opportunity to compete for jobs. That's great. But honestly, what are you going to do in May? No player has ever done anything in May or June that won him a job.
Right.
That's not where it's won. So you're creating this competition that doesn't need to happen. You acknowledge they're not ready to do it, and then people get hurt. So seems like OTAs were just a flat out negative experience, and they would have been better off doing last year's training regimen, which was nothing.
I agree with you. Iggy, you and I are being very critical of Kyle Shanahan today.
I mean, you got to be critical of someone, and he's the head coach of the team. He's the head coach of the team. If you don't criticize him, who are you going to criticize?
I'm noticing some of you, the people who are watching, are trying to find other reasons to absolve Kyle.
That's what Niner fans do. No offense. That's what fans of teams do. You always defend the head coach. He's like the king on the chessboard. You can't let him. You got to defend him at all costs. Because if he's wrong, then bad. Then the whole direction of the team is wrong.
Right. I got it.
You always got to throw people under the bus at his expense. I get it. Because once there's no confidence in the head coach, he gets fired shortly after. You don't last much longer after that. So I get it.
If you were Jed York, and you saw what happened in the OTAs, and the Niners have a middling record, I I was going to say 8-8, but the 17 games, 9-8. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you consider firing him?
You'd have to. I mean, 9-8. That's an interesting one. If he has a losing record, you definitely have to. If he misses the playoffs, here's the thing: they have Trey Lance, and if Kyle Shanahan can't develop him, and these injury issues keep going on, then maybe you want to bring in someone else that has a solution for the injury issues, and that's better at developing young quarterbacks. Okay, hold on, Mister. The coach is upset. I give up. I really don't understand, Mr. Cohn. How is this on Kyle either way when we don't have any context of how the players got injured? I'm lost.
You know, Coach, thank you. It's a very fair comment. We are lacking in details, but we're not lacking in one detail. They keep getting hurt.
Yeah.
They keep getting hurt.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're getting hurt, but they keep getting hurt.
Yeah.
I'm not making them get hurt. Iggy's not making them get hurt. They're getting hurt on Kyle Shanahan's watch. I'm suspicious.
If you don't hold the head coach accountable for this, then ultimately no one's accountable for this. It's just something that you're going to say is going to keep happening or it won't. Thank you for challenging us. Let me see if there's other things we can talk about. All right. How about this? So OTAs were a bust, but if there was one silver lining of it, can you think of one?
If it was
any silver linings from the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, the new quarterback didn't get hurt.
Well, yeah, he didn't get hurt, but also the fact that he got reps in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11s helps him. I mean, it was at the expense of a lot of other players, but Trey Lance got to play in Kyle Shanahan's offense in like a training camp setting, which can only help his development. It came at a serious cost, but it was good for him.
I got other things.
Yes.
Jimmy seemed competitive. Jimmy
Absolutely.
is going to fight for that job. And
Yes.
I think he served notice.
Yes.
Iggy.
Yes.
So in that regard, I'm saying that was a success as well. Jimmy
Yes.
came out to play.
Yes. I got more. I mean, I'm not saying that these players are less important than other players, but at least they didn't lose any of their core players for the year. And maybe the fact that they shut down now means that they've learned their lesson and they're going to change something and prevent more of these things from happening. Maybe they're going to make an issue. Maybe they're going to make a change right now.
Well, there's going to be a press conference tomorrow. You can ask those questions.
Absolutely. Yes.
I want to say, Iggy, press conference tomorrow. What do you think are some relevant questions for Kyle? It's Kyle Shanahan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think are some relevant questions?
What are you doing differently than the rest of the league that makes this a constant issue?
Seems fair to me.
Yeah. What about you? What do you think?
You seem to get players hurt early.
Yeah.
When there's, maybe they shouldn't be getting hurt because you're losing them for games. Why?
Yeah. Why?
And then I'd follow up with the rest of the league doesn't seem to get them hurt at the level that you do, at the rate. Why? What do you need to do differently? That's the third.
Okay, here's the thing. If John Lynch were doing this press conference, he would not be defensive. He would say, use your name. He would say, Lowell, that's a really good question. We're looking into it. That's a fair question. I don't know if he would answer it, but he wouldn't be defensive. Do you think Kyle will be defensive tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the reason that he knows that he's in the crosshairs.
Yeah.
Yes,
and he doesn't really have a good answer. He'll be defensive. And if you ask him questions, he'll parse your words. Well, how do you know? Have you done that? Have you ran the numbers?
Right.
Is it true? Man, don't quibble with me. Reassure the fans because they're just as they're just like us. They have the same questions we have. We're just passing it on, man. We're not creating an issue out of nothing.
A question you can't ask, but I think you raised. They would have been better if they did nothing than had the OTAs.
Yes.
I mean, but you can't ask that question.
Yes.
And I want to tell you something else about Shanahan. Iggy, and people bear with me because I think about personalities. Iggy, does he ever do a press conference not wearing a hat?
Ooh. Oh, man. I'm sure I could find examples of it, but rarely.
He generally wears a hat.
Yeah.
With a bill that comes like this. I want to say.
It's not a confident look.
Oh God. When a person, let's call it a baseball cap.
Yeah.
When a person comes to a meeting like that,
Yeah.
and he's wearing a baseball cap,
Yeah.
you can't see the forehead and there's a shadow over the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a form of almost hiding.
Yes.
It's a form of hiding.
Yes.
And my question is, what the hell are you hiding from?
Yeah.
Because in his answers, he'll be hiding.
Yes.
He'll be trying to quibble with you and
Yeah.
put it back on you, and his look is hiding.
Yeah.
He sounds like a man who's afraid of a lot of things.
You know who else was also extremely defensive? The most defensive coach, Chip Kelly. Anytime you asked him a question, he wouldn't answer it. He would be like, well, this part of your question is wrong, and this part of your question is wrong. Chip, you can quibble with the wording of my question all you want, but that doesn't change the fact that you've lost 13 games in a row. So why don't you answer my freaking question? Now, Kyle hasn't lost 13 games in a row, but sometimes he bugs me that way. It's like, man, you know what I'm talking about. Don't put this back on me. You're the head coach. You're the guy who's getting the guys hurt. Answer it, man. Reassure the fans. Don't just try to like one up me or make me look bad, because you're not going to.
I agree.
Alex Martis says, fan, it's exhausting to be on the hypercritical train 365. It's not my job to hold Shanahan accountable. As a fan, I just want to love my team. All right. Well, who's stopping you?
You love him.
Yeah. You love them, baby. You love them like they've never been loved before. Hold on. We got two more, and then we'll get back to whatever we wanted to talk about, which I don't know what it is. We'll see. Hold on. I'm J Rico 85 says, off topic, but why is no one talking about 44? We lose 10 TDs with no Wilson, but what about Juice? Will he serve more impact? Yeah, good call. Maybe they'll actually use Kyle Juszczyk for the first time in 5 years. That'd be a great one. I support it. J Rico. My dad is nonplussed, but I think it's a good idea.
No, I totally agree.
Joseph Rod says, Grant, have Kyle perform a seance and get us Mr. Miyagi to get this team through our injuries. Ha ha. What did you write in the early 80s? Were the Giants having a bunch of injuries, or were they just losing a bunch and you said they should sacrifice what?
Oh, God. No. Well, you know what it was?
What?
They had a lot of born-again Christians on
Yeah.
the team. And as a joke, as a satire, I said they should sacrifice one soul to the devil. And it was just a joke. But, you know, the born-agains, Gary Lavelle and Johnny LeMaster, took it literally, and they got very angry at me. And Johnny LeMaster is one of the nicest, most wonderful athletes I've ever covered. He was a shortstop for the Giants, and Lowell, why did you say we should sacrifice someone to the devil? And I said, Johnny, it was satire, and he didn't know what satire was.
Right. So now you're having to explain.
And I just felt like such a schmuck, and I had hurt his feelings. But yeah, I did do that. Yeah.
Lowell, please explain what Jerry Rice did to prepare and avoid injuries over his career.
Well, he did get hurt once very badly.
He tore his ACL in a game. You can't avoid it. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
But it's such an interesting question. I have never seen anyone work as hard as Jerry. When Steve Young became the quarterback, he was used to catching passes from Joe, who was a righty.
Yeah.
When Steve Young was a quarterback and Jerry wanted to get used to getting passes from a lefty, and he wasn't working with Steve because Steve was doing other things. One of the equipment guys, Teddy Walsh, was a very nice man who lives in Santa Rosa, is a lefty, and he would have Teddy Walsh throw him the ball, Jerry.
Mm.
And I think I've told this story before. Walsh said that he had never seen anyone dress for a game like Jerry.
Yeah.
That I'm sure Jerry wasn't aware of it. Bill would watch him before a game, and he would put everything on slowly and perfectly. His socks, his pants, his jersey, his belt. And Bill said, and the last thing, he would fold this towel and he'd put it in. And Bill said it was someone dressing for battle.
Right.
Someone dressing for battle.
And it was emblematic of his preparation.
Yes.
Now, one more thing. I think I wasn't around during this era, but it sounds like from what everyone said that his conditioning was the greatest of all time.
Yeah. He used to run that hill on the peninsula with Roger Craig. He was a super athlete who was super prepared. Yes, no question. He had pride in his ability and his performance like you can never imagine.
Also, he wasn't really super muscled up. He was 6'2", 200. I mean, he didn't have a ton of G forces on his ligaments. He seemed like a pretty natural. I don't know, but he seemed pretty natural in his body type, and he was in great condition, and he basically played all the freaking time. So I don't know. Good question for him. Do you think Kyle is taking the Bill Belichick approach when talking to the media?
No, I don't. Bill, I want to say this. I think Belichick is bad for the league in
Agree.
terms of public relations, not
Agree.
as a coach.
Agree.
And I think he's a very bad model. I don't think Kyle is that way. I actually think Kyle tries to answer honestly most questions, but I
Right.
do think about the injuries he'll be defensive. And I think he has every reason to be. But Iggy, my impression is he's not like Belichick.
No. You ask Belichick a question, he'll pause for 15 seconds and like thinking about like, how do I answer this in the least helpful way? I don't like it. Vince Castellana says you should ask the players like Jimmy Ward about what they think of the injuries and trainings, especially others who have been on other teams.
You know, that's
I
not
gotta
going
get
to
back.
work.
I gotta get back in the locker room before that happens, and they're not
Yeah,
gonna let us in
because
anytime
if
soon.
you ask that on a Zoom, it's public. And if he's at all critical of the team, he's
in
risking
trouble.
a lot. You can't do it.
Hey Jimmy, why don't you tell us how it really is with these injuries? Yeah, I got you, man. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. All right, let me see if there's any other topics we can discuss. Training John Lynch. Well, there's one more, and it's kind of a press thing. But Dad, why don't you think the Niners told the media about this on Monday when it happened? I mean, we just went through this with Jeff Wilson Jr.
Yeah. I was wondering that. These people got hurt in practice.
That's right.
Maybe they didn't say anything until they got um, seen by doctors.
Fair. That's fair.
And
That's fair.
maybe they didn't have the results until Tuesday morning.
Okay, good.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
When the news got broken, was it broken by the local media or national media?
See, I don't know. I believe, I want to say the PR director texted everyone at the same time. I got a text from the PR guy. They don't have a PR director. From a PR guy, I got a group text, and I want to say that he sent that out at the same time to everyone. I don't know if NFL Network broke it first. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on this.
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. And when did you get the text?
Oh, geez. 8:30 this morning, something like that. First thing this morning.
Okay, I think that's fair enough, Iggy.
Yeah.
I have no problem. I have no problem with that. I do have a problem, Iggy, with canceling the workout today and giving what I consider a phony excuse, and at first saying it was planned. I have a problem with all of that. But those are media issues, and they're not fan issues. And I know fans don't give a crap about the media.
True. So thanks for indulging us. The coach says, spent my lunch money on you guys. I love your style. You're tough, honest, prying, and arrogant. Perfect recipe for journalism. I challenge because I love. Well, thank you so much, Coach. We appreciate you keeping us honest, and you do.
Thank you, Coach. You're a good guy.
Yeah. Exodus says, how do you think the 49ers will do this year facing division rivals? I always love getting the question from left field. What do you think, Dad?
Well, here's the thing. I do think they're the best team in the division. But
When
if
healthy.
they're all hurt, I mean, if you know what I mean, if they're bringing out the third string, so right now it's unclear. But I think they can win 2 games from Arizona. I don't think much of that team. I think that it's likely they'll split with the other 2 teams, Iggy.
Yeah. The Niners should find a way to trademark the term when healthy because no one uses it more than they do. It is the caveat of all caveats for them. They should just have it painted across Levi's Stadium.
Yeah, when healthy.
When healthy. All right. I think those are our topics, unless you got anything extra you want to talk about.
Well, let's see. You were talking about silver linings from the OTAs.
Sure. The fact that Trey Lance got to play, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Also, Josh Rosen got to throw some passes.
There you go.
And you said he looked very good.
I thought he looked terrific.
Iggy, is he gifted?
He's incredibly gifted. That's the thing about him. Watching him it's like, no offense to Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard or even Jimmy Garoppolo, they can't throw, or even Trey Lance, they can't throw the ball like this kid. This guy, when he was 15, was labeled as the best quarterback and the best tennis player in America. It's like, do you want to be Troy Aikman or do you want to be Pete Sampras? That's how people thought of him. He was that gifted, and he went into football, and apparently people just feel like he became, I don't know, people say he's arrogant, he doesn't love the game. Well, from what I heard, he's all in with the 49ers. He was on their practice squad. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He respects Kyle Shanahan. I guess he's an intellectually arrogant, smart kid who feels like a lot of the coaches he's had have been beneath him. So you can't act that way with Kyle. He's universally regarded as one of the 5 most forward-thinking offensive minds in the league. Got to respect him. He does. And he's bought in for the first time in his life. He's like 24 years old. He was the 10th pick in the draft. Good prospect to have.
Iggy, he's only 24.
He just turned 24 like a month ago. And they've already given up on him. The whole league. He's on his 4th team because of his personality or whatever. But from what I've heard, he's finally grown up and realized that he's not going to get a 5th team. And this is everything he's been asking for. Make it work.
Well, I want to say I find their quarterback room intriguing.
Me too.
They have some really, really talented people and competitive people in that room.
Absolutely. I mean, Jimmy won't be here forever. He'll be gone eventually. And then it'll be Trey Lance and Josh Rosen. Rosen's a hell of a backup to have. And he's the kind of player that Kyle could develop, prop up, have him play well in a preseason, and then trade him for some draft picks if you want to get, because they have no draft picks. So that's a potential found money.
Yes, or he's competition for the other quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Either way, I consider that one of the shrewdest and most creative things they've done.
Yeah, and it's a big step for Kyle because he was so invested in Beathard and Mullins. Spent 4 years developing them, defending them, playing them, and then he brought in Rosen for like 2 months last year. Took a quick look at him on the practice squad and said, "Nick, CJ, I love you. We're going with Josh."
It's very interesting. Now I have another question for you. Silver linings. Were there any silver linings on defense?
Yeah, Fred Warner didn't get hurt. That's it.
Well, that's a big one.
Fred Warner didn't get hurt. Nick Bosa didn't participate. Nick Bosa wasn't there. He was in Florida. Smartest thing he could have done.
Why does he live in Florida?
Yeah, he lives in Florida, and he's still rehabbing his ACL from last year that he suffered in a game. He doesn't need to be here. It's the most unlucky training facility of all time. So he was in Florida. That was a silver lining. Fred Warner made it through. He's the only guy who never gets hurt on this team. Good for him. That's a silver lining.
Okay. Now I have an assignment for you.
Yes.
I'm giving you an assignment.
Okay.
Iggy, there are no practices next week, right?
Oh, yes, there are. There's mini camp next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Usually they cancel the last day. But Tuesday, Wednesday.
And are you invited Tuesday and Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay. I won't give you the assignment then. I'll talk to you about the assignment another time.
All right. Well, let's answer some questions. We got about 4. I'm Jay Rico 85 says, I'm all about blaming Kyle as well for training injuries, but if he were to be fired, who would step up? Who can we find to take Kyle's job? Well, it's a problem because they just let a good coach leave in Robert Salah. But if they were to get rid of Kyle, it would be someone with a background of developing young quarterbacks. Kyle doesn't have that background. Someone who's done it before. There's a guy in Buffalo right now, that offensive coordinator, Brian Daboll. He just did a great job developing Josh Allen, maybe someone like him. And ideally, when you have a quarterback like Trey Lance, that's an attractive job. A lot of coaches might want that project. Good question. I don't know how to pronounce that. Says maybe the Niners should move training camp to somewhere else like Arcata or Santa Cruz. Maybe the cooler conditions can help mitigate these injuries. They've been practicing here since the early 90s, right?
Yeah, they used to practice up in Rockland, which was actually very hot. It wasn't cool. It was very hot. And I don't remember there being a lot of injuries at Rockland.
No, I don't remember there being a lot of injuries when Harbaugh was the coach at the same place. Okay, next question. Do you think the Niners will depend on the rookies or free agents more if injuries continue? Also a huge fan. Keep up the great work. Thank you. It seems like, Tavarius Moore went down. The Niners signed a 29-year-old safety who hasn't played in 2 years because he tore his ACL. You just kind of get the guys who are on the street.
The guys who are on the couch.
The guys who are on the couch potatoes who aren't in great shape and they could get hurt too. It's not easy. It's not easy. But good thing the Niners have a lot of draft picks coming up next year. I'm sorry. I'm negative. Reese Cup J says, huge fan of you and your pops. Thank you. Do you think Jed has enough in him to let Kyle go? And if so, who could be a good coach possibly available for this team?
Okay, it's way too soon to talk about letting Kyle go. You have to see how this season goes, how the season progresses. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to know a lot more about Kyle after this season. If he has a Bafo season, God love him.
Yeah.
If he has a lot of injuries and he finishes one game under 500, I would put him on the hot seat.
Yeah, and I think the reason people are upset isn't because the season is screwed. It's just a bad start. And it's like, are we going down the same road as last year? Because I don't have patience for that anymore. And I don't have sympathy for it. You can't keep using the same excuse every year.
People gave him a pass on it last season. You don't get a second pass.
Yeah, you're supposed to have done something to change something. Thomas says, I heard they were both injured by Kinlaw and that he picked them both up and carried them around in his mouth. Thank you, Thomas. See, people like that start rumors. It's not okay. That was just a joke. Kinlaw's the guy who carried around the squirrel in his mouth. Very intimidating man. B-Money says you need to ask Josh Rosen about the hot tub he had in his dorm room his freshman year. Go Bruins. I'm pretty sure if I asked him about that, he would shut down the interview right away. Not the best moment of Josh Rosen's career. I think people still hold it against him. But anyway, thank you. Hold on. Lucas says, Lowell, do you think the Niners should give Grant a jersey number and retire it? You guys are silly. You guys are awfully silly.
I think they should make him quality control and pay him a nickel.
I think I'll keep my job. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a lot of work for a nickel.
You have a good job.
I really like my job. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Did you see that video I made yesterday about how it feels to be the number one beat writer and my little story about Robert Salah? Did you see that?
Was that where he told you to do videos?
Yeah.
I loved it.
You like that?
I did. And you know what, Iggy? I liked the video you did on that you can't be boring.
What'd you think of that one?
Oh, God. I loved it. And here's the thing, people who are watching, I really believe that as a writer, and Iggy believes that he's more of a performer than I was because he does videos. You can't be boring. You can't sit there and go, you know, one thing that you left out about boring.
What?
I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
And this kills me when I read game stories after a Niner game, and there's a lot of statistics.
Iggy, statistics.
I mean, you got to have some statistics. How many yards did he throw for? But I'm telling you, there's a lot of statistics that you can live without. And when I'm reading an article and all of a sudden there's statistics, the next paragraph statistics, it's like, I want to die. There has
to go from reading to skimming.
Right. Because Iggy, there has to be a story about human beings, not numbers.
There has to be a visual, a description.
Got to be visual.
Yeah.
Because these are visual art forms, what they're doing.
And there has to be an attempt at the beginning of the video or the article to hook you. If they don't even try and they're just like, this is my book report on the game. Here's what I thought happens. Like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not wasting my time. And there's way too much of that. They just take for granted your attention span. I don't have one.
Right. That's right. Like, for example, today, we talked for 46 minutes at so many decibels.
That's right.
There were X number of people watching.
That's right.
The temperature was so-and-so. There was a breeze in the Oakland Hills. It's like, here's the other thing. Good writing. And Elmore Leonard, this was his first rule of good writing. You never start with the weather.
Ever. And in his case, what he said is you want to get the gun into the first paragraph.
Yeah, right.
You don't want to wait until the second paragraph to mention the gun. That's got to be out in the first paragraph.
Yeah.
Well, that's more of a metaphorical strategy for us, but the same principle.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, we got other questions. Hold on. So we got that
one. I love answering questions.
I like answering questions too. Ryan says, if Kyle makes a change to practice, do you think small? And what do you think it would be? I think in spring, I wouldn't have competition. It would all be
very few padded practices.
Yes.
You know.
Now, they don't have padded practices now, but again, no competition. If they're not ready for one-on-ones, they're not ready for 7-on-7s and 11-on-11s either.
I'm with you.
That's what I would do.
I'm with you. There should be more team-building activities.
Team building. Michael, yes.
Before we get to Michael, we should have family-building activities.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
Wouldn't that be fun? We get Brian over and Carolyn and the kids and you and Swasti and Dawn and me, and we could do family-building activities.
Yeah, we could play Monopoly.
You know what I was going to say. Among the team building activities, we'll get to you in a minute, Michael.
Yeah.
I think they should have a big clue tournament.
Oh yeah,
All the
absolutely.
players, you know,
Clue is a
Miss
lot of
Scarlet,
fun.
Miss
I'm good at
Scarlet,
Clue.
yeah, Colonel Mustard.
Zinzi taught me how to play Clue, and I got tricks up my sleeve that you would
Yeah, yeah.
never believe.
I think there should be a clue smackdown.
Oh man, I would watch that. They should live
Yeah.
stream it. We could discuss it. Michael says, is it irrational to think about relocating the 49ers back to SF? It seems when we moved to a warmer climate, injury after injury after injury occurred since we moved in 2014.
Here's my
Again.
answer to that. I'm sorry, Michael. It's, as John Gruden used to say, it's irrelative.
No, hold on. I say if they use this as an excuse to move back to San Francisco, God love them. Yeah, move back to San Francisco.
Oh yeah, that's
blame it on Santa Clara. Yeah,
go back to San Francisco.
Absolutely, great idea. It's Santa Clara's fault.
Okay, it's Santa Clara's fault.
It's Santa Clara's fault. It's bad juju. It's the football gods saying that they don't belong there. That's what it is. There's no other.
Iggy, that's why you're smarter than I am.
Yeah, I learned that. Football Gods 101 at UCLA. Iron Niners has been saying it for years. Candlestick curse. Why did they tear it down? I don't know. There's no way to prove it wrong. How can you say it's not a candlestick curse? You can't say it. Anyway, those are the last comments.
Iggy, did you take Football Gods 101 at
Football
UCLA?
Gods 101? Yeah, it was a prereq.
But you also took dinosaurs.
That was the hardest class. That was the biggest mistake I took at UCLA. It was the only C I ever got. It was a C+. It was the hardest class. I was thinking like, oh, this is going to be really fun. No, the class is identify different fossils. That's the hardest thing in the world. The hardest thing in the world.
Tell him who was in your class.
Russell Westbrook. And every time I was walking to the class, he was walking away. And I was thinking, man, the class hasn't started yet. And one time I told him, I said, Russell, you're walking the wrong direction. He didn't break stride. He looked over his shoulder and he said, he looked at me, he said, ha! Which I thought was the perfect answer because athletes have it different. They don't really have to go to the practice. They have all these study groups that are fantastic. He went to the study group. I'm sure he got an A in that class while I was an idiot getting a C+. So more power to you, Russell. And now he's worth like $500 million. So who am I? Who am I to talk to Russell Westbrook? I'm sitting in my PJs in my bedroom. Justin says, would it not benefit the Niners to be more open with the media, say 2-3 media days a week?
Well, during the regular season, they do have more media days, right?
Yes, they do.
The defensive coordinator talks, the offensive coordinator talks, Kyle talks. So they do have a lot of media days. And they love them. I'm sure they love them.
The Niners are so bad at PR. I mean, they should all be loved. They're the 49ers. What's interesting to me is, I don't know if you've noticed, but Robert Salah, he's over in New York. They love him over there. He took like his 8 kids to a New York Knicks game, and they put him on the big screen, and the whole place went nuts. It was during the playoffs. He's a big hit. He's so easy to like. I mean, even when you saw him on the sidelines doing all that stuff, it's like, I can relate to that guy. Kyle's much harder to relate to.
Here's the thing.
What?
Salah is a good guy, but Salah is extremely strategic.
It's the honeymoon over there. If he loses 4 games, it's over.
Yeah, but having said that,
yeah,
he's strategic and he thinks about stuff like that. How am I going to get the media? Don Nelson thought about that.
Kyle should think about that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Kyle hasn't spent a moment of his life thinking, how am I going to get Grant Cohn over on my side? It's
Robert
not
Salah
worth
figured
it
that out 3 years ago. He figured it out 3 years ago. First of all, he figured out that it was necessary. Second of all, he accomplished it in like 2 months. I got to give him credit. Very smart. Look at him now. Why is he the head coach of the Jets? Because I said he should be. I campaigned for him. Think he gets that job without me? Probably not. I don't know. So, yeah, Kyle, learn from Robert Salah. It's the best decision he ever made.
Yeah, you know what I think? Here's what I think. You know how you always say Salah should call Shanahan and ask him about this, about that. Shanahan should call him and say, Robert, or Salah, as he calls him.
Salah.
How do I get along with the media?
Yeah, you know that personality you have? How do I get one?
Could I borrow it for a day?
Could I just borrow it for a day? It's such a great personality. It's charming.
Yeah.
Oh.
May I borrow your personality? Can you borrow a person's personality?
Why not? I think Robert Salah's a very generous guy. He could try.
Would he have to be Kyle for a day?
Oh, that'd be tough. Would you have to talk through your nose and into your belly button the whole time. Well, sorry. Rod Simmons, Lowell, Jim Harbaugh even had his guys learn boxing around this time and learn Navy SEAL stuff. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. That's a lot of P's. It's got to be true.
I love it. I didn't know that he had him learn boxing. I watch boxing matches all the time on TV, on my YouTube all the time.
Dad, tell me you didn't watch Mayweather, Logan Paul. You didn't watch that, did you?
Oh God, no.
Good.
I'm talking about boxing, not
boxing.
Ridiculous.
Not ridiculous. Yeah, the circus. Brian McDougall said strength and conditioning coaches need to be fired and replaced. Is Earl Thomas a possible pickup? Earl Thomas is another guy who gets hurt all the time. I love that. People, look, no offense, Brian, but not a lot of Niner fans are like, man, these injuries are inexcusable. Do you think we should sign this 31-year-old guy who hasn't played in a couple of years? I love that about Niner fans. No, they shouldn't sign Earl Thomas and the strength and conditioning coaches. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but maybe if they do get fired, someone other than Kyle should hire the next one.
But hold on a minute. I don't know these particular people, Iggy.
Fair.
But I know people like them, and I've known them at other teams. These people go to school. Iggy, these people have degrees. Like Tommy Abdenauer, who used to be with the Warriors, is great. They have degrees, and they are serious about...
Yeah, but let me tell you, there's not something you don't understand. The head guy leading the entire operation, they got from the NHL. He had no NFL experience. And then the number 2 guy, who's the head strength and conditioning coach, he was the assistant dude at Minnesota. He got hired to be the assistant dude with the Niners. The top guy got fired. He got promoted. So you could say that while they're serious and they're probably very good, they may not be the best in the world. And that's what you're looking for in the NFL.
I got it. So if they're not the best in the world, and we have no way of knowing,
we don't know.
But their resumes not putting them down. But again, that's on Kyle.
Absolutely, no question. It all comes back to him. He makes every decision. Maybe he's making too many. I think that's our show. We're at about an hour. This was fun. We went freestyle for a little bit, and it was good.
Wait, I want to say one other thing.
Oh, let's keep going.
Okay. And I know I'm going to tell a Bill Walsh story. And
okay.
People say,
I like a Bill Walsh story. If you can't tell a Bill Walsh
talking
story,
about Bill Walsh again, I'm sorry. I want to talk about attention to detail.
Okay.
And maybe some of you know the story, maybe some of you don't. And this is a true story. When Bill was a hotsy-totsy guy at the 49ers, they had a lot of pictures on the walls of the facility. And they were, pictures of great plays and great players and all this. One day, Bill comes walking through the building and he notices that the pictures are tops. They're not orderly. They're at angles. They're not lined up with each. They're not lined up correctly.
Oh, okay.
This left side is up. The right side is up. It looked like a mess. So here's what happened. He had the head custodian come in and nail them all to the wall so they all were perfectly lined up. And the next day, the head custodian was gone. He was that serious about preparation that I'm not saying he fired the guy, but he was gone. And because, he was to the level of detail of the photos. And I'm going to tell you something else. I wrote this book about Stanford football, the 1992 season. And I was in the locker room with Bill every day. In front of his locker, he would at the end of the practice, he would get into his street clothes. And he would put his sneakers right in front of his locker and his socks inside. Iggy, like I taught you to do when you were a little kid, to dress neatly and put your clothes out the night before. They were perfectly lined up, and everything in his locker was perfect, and really neat and orderly. And what I'm saying is, Bill wasn't in charge of every aspect of that organization, down to the pictures on the walls. And I think Kyle, he needs to walk around tomorrow and look at the pictures.
Ooh, I love that. Johnny Ellis says, hired Jerry Rice as a strength and conditioning coach. No, how about as a how to practice correctly without getting injured coach? He could show him right now at 55 or whatever he is. He could show him.
Absolutely.
How to get warmed up, how to cool down, the whole thing. He was the greatest of all time. Anything else? That's it. Thank you for watching our emergency podcast. It was serious. Kyle, I know you're watching. Think about it. We're on your side here. This is quality control. We're just giving the meeting that Jed York should have given you today. I don't know if he did it, but we did it. So you learn.
Thanks, Iggy. I love you. I'll call you in a minute.
Love you too, Dad. Thank you, everyone.